A survival budget in America no longer breaks from one giant bill. It breaks from 15 quiet expenses that each look normal until they stack on the same paycheck. Rent rises. Food shrinks. Insurance renews higher. Subscriptions hide in the background. A simple card swipe becomes interest, fees, tips, and taxes. This video walks through the expenses that now make ordinary life feel like a trap, using public spending, inflation, debt, housing, health, and childcare data rather than panic. By the end, you should be able to spot which costs are draining you, which ones are negotiable, and which ones are symptoms of a bigger system. At 15, subscription creep is one of the easiest expenses to defend and one of the hardest to kill. One streaming service feels harmless. One music app feels normal. One cloud storage plan feels necessary. Then a fitness app, a delivery membership, a news app, a game pass, a security app, a premium version, and a forgotten free trial join the pile. The trick is not that each bill is huge. The trick is that each bill is small enough to avoid a serious conversation. Recent media surveys show subscribing households spend roughly the cost of a utility bill every month on streaming video alone, and many consumers say they are frustrated by price increases. The uncomfortable part is that companies know cancellation friction works. A plan that takes 10 seconds to start can take a maze to stop. Even when regulators tried to make cancellation as easy as sign-up, the fight around that rule showed how valuable trapped attention can be. Recurring revenue is loved because it makes tomorrow predictable for the company. But for the household, it makes tomorrow crowded before the paycheck arrives. The practical move is simple but not fun. Print one full month of transactions, circle every repeating charge, and ask whether you would sign up again today at the current price. If the answer is no, it is not entertainment anymore. It is leakage. A useful test is to split subscriptions into 3 groups: daily use, seasonal use, and identity use. Daily use can stay if it replaces something more expensive. Seasonal use should rotate, not stack. Identity use is the dangerous one because you keep it to feel like the kind of person who reads, exercises, learns languages, watches prestige shows, or manages life perfectly, even when the app is barely opened. At 14, delivery and convenience pricing are quietly turning tiredness into a monthly tax. Ordering food after work is not a moral failure. People are busy, underpaid, commuting, parenting, studying, and exhausted. But delivery and convenience services often break one purchase into layers: menu price, service fee, delivery fee, small order fee, higher taxes in some places, optional tip, and sometimes a higher item price than the same order in person. The business model works because the customer sees the craving first and the total last. The controversial truth is that convenience is often sold as freedom while acting like interest on fatigue. A meal that would already be expensive as restaurant food can become a premium product because you bought back 20 minutes. The habit gets more dangerous when it replaces groceries, leftovers, and planned meals. There is another hidden cost too. Convenience rewires the idea of normal. Once dinner can appear at the door, a basic home meal starts to feel like labor instead of default life. Nobody needs to cook every night to be financially responsible, but a household that orders because it is unprepared is not buying food. It is buying rescue. The fix is not shame. The fix is having 2 emergency meals at home that are cheaper than panic delivery. One reason people miss the damage is that the delivery receipt is treated like one meal, not like a recurring habit. If it happens every Friday, then it is a subscription without the name. If it happens whenever the day goes badly, then your budget is absorbing your schedule problem. The question is not, can I afford this order tonight? The question is, do I want this pattern 12 months from now? At 13, tipping pressure has become a real budget category, even though most people do not track it. Tipping has always existed in American restaurants, but the new problem is the spread of tip prompts into places where service used to be built into the price. Payment screens now ask while the worker watches, while the line waits, and while the options are framed to make the middle choice feel normal. A national survey found that a strong majority of adults believe tipping is expected in more places than it was 5 years earlier. That matters because social pressure changes spending. A person may not want to tip at a counter, but they also do not want to look cheap. The strange part is that businesses can benefit from this confusion without officially raising wages or menu prices. Customers feel guilty. Workers depend on tips. Owners keep posted prices looking lower than the true cost of the transaction. This is why the screen is so powerful. It turns a private money choice into a public identity test. The smart rule is to decide before the screen appears. Tip well for real service. Be generous when you truly want to be, but do not let a tablet make financial decisions for you. A fair tip given freely is different from a tip extracted by awkwardness. That difference matters because resentment can hurt workers, while blind pressure hurts customers. The healthiest approach is to separate kindness from manipulation. Decide your rule, follow it calmly, and do not punish a worker for a screen they did not design. At 12, bank fees, late fees, overdraft charges, and service charges punish people hardest when they are already short. A fee is not just a fee. It is a signal that the system charges extra for being close to zero. Out-of-network cash withdrawals can cost several dollars before you even spend the cash. Overdraft fees have fallen at some institutions, but they still remain a pressure point for households living close to payday. Credit card late fees, returned payment fees, account maintenance charges, paper statement charges, transfer fees, and convenience fees all share the same design problem. They look small in isolation and brutal in sequence. Consumer regulators have repeatedly described many of these charges as junk fees because the price is not always clear at the decision point. The harsh reality is that the poorest dollar in America is often the most expensive dollar to move. And once a fee hits, it can trigger a chain. One late fee causes a lower balance, the lower balance causes another overdraft, the overdraft causes a missed payment, and the missed payment hurts credit. If you have stable cash flow, the defensive move is boring. Automatic minimum payments, calendar reminders, a free checking account, in-network cash access, and one buffer account. If you do not have stable cash flow, the problem is not discipline alone. It is volatility. People often say a fee is only a small amount, but that misses the timing. A fee often arrives exactly when the person has the least margin to absorb it. That is why two households can pay the same fee and feel completely different pain. For one, it is annoying. For another, it changes dinner, gas, or medicine. At 11, phones, internet, and device financing have moved from luxury to survival infrastructure. A household can cut cable, but it cannot easily cut connection. Job applications, school portals, bank alerts, medical messages, maps, two-factor codes, work scheduling, ride requests, and emergency updates all assume access. That makes the bill harder to challenge. Providers can bundle service, device payments, insurance, activation charges, line fees, taxes, and promotional discounts that expire later. A phone advertised as affordable can become a multi-year obligation because the discount depends on staying with the plan. The hidden risk is not only the monthly price, it is the lock-in. If switching providers means losing credits or paying off a device, competition becomes weaker in real life than it looks in commercials. Many families also overpay because they keep unlimited plans they do not fully use, carry insurance on older phones, or keep extra lines active after a child, parent, or roommate no longer needs them. Another quiet drain is the upgrade cycle. People are taught to think a slightly better camera or faster screen is a necessity, even when the old phone still works. Once a year, pull the full bill, not the app summary. Look for add-ons, expired promos, device payoff balances, and taxes. The survival question is not whether connection matters. It does. The question is whether the plan is serving you or trapping you. The lowest advertised plan is not always the lowest usable plan. Data caps, slow speeds, weak coverage, and device compatibility can push people back into expensive tiers. Families should also watch the emotional side of phone spending. A new device can feel like a deserved reward during a stressful year, but financing makes the reward follow you long after the excitement fades. At 10, utilities are becoming less predictable, and that is frightening because lights, heat, cooling, water, and basic power are not optional. The average household can reduce waste, but no one can budget perfectly against weather, fuel markets, grid upgrades, local rate cases, old housing, and extreme temperature swings. Federal energy data show residential electricity prices have climbed in recent years, and recent inflation data show electricity still rising over the year. People feel this most in old apartments with bad insulation, houses with aging heating systems, and regions where cooling is not comfort but safety. The bill also arrives after the usage happens, which means the punishment comes late. That timing is important. A family may survive the month, then get hit by a bill from a heat wave they could not avoid. The controversial point is that personal conservation advice has limits when the building itself is inefficient. Turning off lights helps. It does not fix a leaky roof, a broken seal, an outdated heat pump, or a landlord who refuses upgrades. The best defense is level billing when available, weather sealing, smart thermostat habits, and calling early before a shutoff notice becomes a crisis. Small cuts matter, but the biggest savings often come from fixing the structure, not blaming the person living inside it. Utilities also expose a class divide that does not show up in a simple national average. A well-insulated house with efficient appliances gives the resident control. A drafty rental gives the resident bills. That is why two families using the same thermostat setting can face very different costs. Energy advice should begin with the building, not just the behavior. At 9, groceries are the expense that makes people doubt their own memory. You walk into the store with the same list and leave with fewer bags. Some of that is normal inflation. Some of it is shrinkflation, where the package gets smaller while the shelf price looks familiar. Recent inflation data show food at home still rising over the year, with certain categories like fruits, vegetables, and beverages rising faster than the overall grocery number. Federal spending data also show households spending thousands of dollars a year on food at home. But the deeper problem is psychological. Groceries are emotional because they sit at the intersection of health, culture, children, time, and dignity. People do not only buy calories. They buy convenience, routine, comfort, and the feeling that the house is okay. That is why grocery inflation hurts even when wages rise. The cart is a weekly report card. A high grocery bill can make a careful person feel careless, even when they bought basic items. Stores also know that layout matters. Essentials pull you through aisles. Eye-level shelves sell convenience. End caps create urgency. The goal is not to become extreme. The goal is to stop paying premium prices for packaging, panic, and habit. The old advice to just buy cheaper food can become insulting when cheap food is not equally available, healthy, or practical. Grocery strategy has to match the life around the kitchen. At 8, restaurant meals are no longer a casual escape for many families. They are a math problem with chairs. Menu prices have risen, wages and rent for restaurants have risen, card processing costs exist, tips are expected, and service charges sometimes appear where customers do not expect them. Inflation data show food away from home rising faster than groceries in many periods, and full-service meals remain a pressure point. But the real squeeze is that restaurants moved from occasional treat to daily infrastructure for busy households. 5 small outside meals can do more damage than one planned night out. Restaurants also sell relief. They offer lighting, comfort, no dishes, and the feeling of being served. That has value. But it should be priced honestly in your mind. That does not mean never eating out. It means naming the purpose. Is this a celebration, a social life, a work necessity, or a stress response? The same receipt feels different when it has a reason. A restaurant budget without a reason becomes a leak with napkins. Restaurants also hide spending through routine. The same person who would question a high grocery receipt may buy lunch outside work because everyone else does. Social pressure turns spending into belonging. The hard move is not refusing every invitation. It is learning to say, I am coming, but I already ate. Or I am getting something small without feeling like you owe an explanation. At 7, owning a car is one of the clearest examples of how American survival often depends on buying an expensive machine. In many places, no car means no reliable job, no late shift, no grocery choice, no doctor visit, and no school flexibility. Public transit is not equally available, and distance turns into cost. The average household spends heavily on transportation, and auto cost studies show that owning and operating a new vehicle can run close to $1,000 a month when depreciation, financing, fuel, insurance, taxes, maintenance, and tires are included. The trap is that people focus on the payment because the payment is visible. Longer loans can make a car look affordable, while keeping the borrower underwater for years. A small down payment can feel like access, then become risk when repairs arrive before equity does. Even fuel costs are only part of the story. A long commute steals time, sleep, and flexibility. The best defense is to price the car like a tool, not a trophy. Add payment, insurance quote, fuel, parking, registration, maintenance, and repairs before signing. A car that gets you to work but eats the raise is not mobility. It is a second landlord. A car purchase also carries identity pressure. Bigger vehicles can signal safety, status, family readiness, or success. The strongest buyer is the one who walks in already knowing the insurance quote and the maximum all-in monthly cost. At 6, auto insurance and repairs are crushing because they are mandatory in practice and unpredictable in timing. Even when vehicle prices soften, repair bills can stay painful because cars are more complex. Sensors, cameras, electronics, specialized parts, labor shortages, and longer repair times all raise the cost of fixing damage. Recent inflation data show motor vehicle maintenance and repair still rising over the year, and insurance remains a major line in household transportation spending. That feels unfair, but insurers price risk across regions, repair costs, claims trends, theft, weather, legal costs, and sometimes credit-based factors where allowed. The controversial truth is that safe behavior matters, but it does not fully protect you from market-wide pricing. A careful driver in an expensive repair market still pays for the market. Repairs also create a trap for people with older cars. They avoid a payment, which may be smart, but then face a repair that is too big for cash and too small for a new financing plan. To fight back, quote, before buying a vehicle, raise deductibles only if you can afford the risk. Ask about mileage discounts, remove coverage you no longer need on older vehicles, and shop at renewal. Loyalty can be expensive when the algorithm knows you are asleep. Repairs are especially dangerous because they force quick decisions. A second opinion can save more than a coupon ever will. At 5, healthcare is the expense that makes insured people feel uninsured. Having coverage does not always mean care feels affordable. Premiums come out of paychecks before the household sees the money. Deductibles reset. Copays stack. Networks limit choices. Prescriptions vary by formulary. A surprise change in employment can change everything. Employer health benefit data show family coverage premiums near the high $20,000 range in 2025, with workers paying several $1,000s of that amount on average, and many covered workers facing deductibles before insurance pays much. The cruel part is that people delay care to save money, then risk bigger bills later. In normal shopping, you see the price first. In healthcare, you may see a portal message, an estimate, an explanation of benefits, a provider bill, a lab bill, and a pharmacy charge at different times. Medical debt can also damage the rest of life by crowding out rent, food, and transportation. The best defense is not perfect. Ask whether a provider is in network, request generic options, use preventive care when covered, compare pharmacy prices, and keep an emergency medical folder. But let us be honest. Budgeting cannot solve a system where illness is priced like a financial event. Healthcare also creates paperwork fatigue. Many people do not fight a bill because they are tired, afraid, or confused by the codes. At 4, childcare may be the most economically misunderstood expense in the country. People talk about parents needing to work, then act shocked that work requires someone to watch the child. National childcare analysis found the average annual price of care in 2024 was over $13,000, and for many households, care for 2 children can exceed rent, mortgage payments, or in-state college tuition in many places. That is not a side expense. The impossible part is that childcare is expensive for parents while many childcare workers are not highly paid. That means the money is not simply going to luxury. The market is broken because parents cannot pay much more, workers cannot be paid much less, and providers cannot safely pack rooms like warehouses. Families respond by staggering shifts, relying on grandparents, quitting jobs, delaying children, moving, or working while exhausted. The hidden cost is career damage. A parent who leaves work for care reasons may lose wages, raises, retirement contributions, and experience that never fully return. When people ask why birth rates fall or why parents seem stressed, this is a major reason. Childcare is not a private inconvenience. It is economic infrastructure. Childcare also explains why some raises do not change a family's life. That does not mean work is pointless. It means families need to calculate net work income, not just gross pay. At 3, student loans and education costs are making survival harder because the bill follows people into adulthood long after the classroom is gone. College can still raise lifetime earnings for many graduates, but the price, debt, and risk are not evenly shared. Current college pricing data show published tuition and fees vary widely, from public 2-year colleges to private nonprofit 4-year schools, while housing, meals, books, transportation, and lost work time add more pressure. Federal debt data shows student loan balances around the trillion-dollar scale, and recent New York credit data showed serious stress returning as payment reporting and defaults resumed after pandemic-era pauses. The damage is not only the monthly payment, it is delayed home buying, delayed retirement saving, lower credit flexibility, and the feeling that one decision at 17 or 18 became a shadow over 35. A degree can be worth it. Families need to compare major, completion rate, net price after aid, expected earnings, transfer paths, apprenticeships, community college, employer tuition support, and debt limits before emotion takes over. The goal is not to be anti-education. The goal is to stop selling teenagers a dream priced like a mortgage. Student debt is also sold with optimism. Borrowers are told to invest in themselves, which can be good advice, but optimism is not a repayment plan. Completion matters as much as admission. At 2, home insurance, property taxes, repairs, and maintenance are the expenses that remind owners the mortgage is not the full cost of owning a home. Home insurance has become especially painful in disaster-prone regions, where storms, fires, rebuilding costs, reinsurance, and insurer pullbacks affect availability and premiums. Property taxes can rise when assessed values rise, even if the owner's cash income does not. Maintenance is the silent monster because houses age whether budgets cooperate or not. A roof does not care that groceries went up. A water heater does not care that the car needs tires. The controversial truth is that some people are house poor not because they bought a mansion, but because the non-mortgage costs became a second mortgage. This is where online mortgage calculators can mislead. They may show principal and interest clearly, but repairs do not arrive in equal monthly pieces. They arrive as a leak, a crack, a broken motor, or a letter from the insurer. Before buying, people should estimate total ownership, not just principal and interest. After buying, they should create a repair fund before the first crisis. Home ownership culture often celebrates the closing day, but ignores Year 7. Year 7 is when appliances age, paint fades, taxes reset, insurance changes, and the first big repairs appear. The house may still be a good decision, but only if the owner has cash breathing room. Pride of ownership should not require fear of the next storm. At 1, rent and mortgage payments are the biggest reason survival feels harder because shelter is the bill you cannot skip without risking everything else. Federal spending data show housing is the largest category in the average household budget, taking roughly a third of annual expenditures. Housing researchers have found that about half of renters are cost-burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of income on housing, and many spend more than half. This creates a frozen system. Renters cannot save because rent is high. Owners do not sell because their old mortgage rate is too valuable. Builders face land, labor, financing, regulation, and material costs. Investors chase returns. The result is that shelter becomes less like a market choice and more like a toll booth on being alive. The most painful part is that housing pressure contaminates every other decision. People stay in bad jobs, bad relationships, long commutes, overcrowded units, or unsafe neighborhoods because moving is expensive. A rent increase can erase a raise. A deposit can block a move. An application fee can punish the search itself. If housing is unstable, budgeting advice becomes decoration. Stabilizing shelter is the foundation. Housing is also the expense most likely to make people feel personally behind. They compare themselves with parents, older coworkers, or internet strangers who bought under different prices and interest rates. That comparison is often unfair. So here is the recap. The expenses making it harder to survive in America are not just luxury mistakes. The pattern is clear. The most dangerous bills are the ones that renew automatically, arrive after the decision, hide inside bundles, or become necessary because the country is built around them. Do not only ask, how do I spend less? Ask, which expense is pretending to be small, which one is buying convenience because I am exhausted, which one is mandatory in my area, and which one can be negotiated, cut, paused, refinanced, shopped, or planned for. If this helped you see your budget differently, like the video, comment with the one expense that shocked you the most, and share it with someone who keeps wondering why a normal paycheck no longer feels normal. Some expenses deserve a hard cut. Some deserve a cheaper version. Some deserve political anger, not personal shame. And some deserve planning because they will come whether you invite them or not. Start with a leak, then attack another bill today. Go.